Hello and welcome to another recording of The Locker Room with fantastic guests from the Newcastle United Foundation, Ollie and Tom. How are we doing, lads?
Hello,
Good.
John.
Good here.
Happy to be on? Yeah, good. Enjoying the weather. I don't know what's happened. This isn't Newcastle.
I know.
It's not grey.
I can't wait for snow on Monday. Apparently, we've got a big load of snow coming, so that'll be a contrast.
Lovely. That's Newcastle, though, isn't it? It snows in June, so.
Yeah, you're right there.
So we are here today to talk about the incredible Be a Game Changer campaign. And I just wanted to get you two on because you're two of the linchpins of the campaign. And did you want to just tell us a little about it, Ollie? Because I always think you give the best explanation of what it is.
Right, pressure's on. Okay, so Be a Game Changer launched back in, Thomas knows the dates off by heart, I'm sure.
February 2018.
Get in, February 2018. So we launched back in February 2018 at one of the home games. And Be a Game Changer is basically all about trying to change the culture and conversations of mental health in the Northeast. So we do that through two different methods. We've got what we call a population approach and a targeted approach. So the population approach is trying to reach as many people as possible with some really broad messages, which kind of go around the idea that it's okay not to be okay, and that Newcastle United tells you that it's okay not to be okay. So we use the population approach, or the way of which we try to utilize the population approach, is by doing things at the stadium at St James's Park under normal situations. On a match day, that would include people handing out flyers or handing out business cards to people who walk past. However, COVID's obviously put a restriction on that over the last year or so. So since then, the club have been kind enough to donate as part of the stadium, down in the bottom left of the screen when you watch them on TV, which is in the East Stand. And that's a big Be a Game Changer banner. And all of that is trying to reach as many people as possible with those messages and say, it's okay not to be okay. And then we've got the targeted part of it. And the targeted part is working with smaller groups of people, doing some more meaningful, more specific bits of work, really. So that's where quite a lot of our programs come under. So that's where things like the Walking Football program comes under. We've got things like 12th Man come underneath there as well, which is a men's health intervention. We've got things like mental health first aid come under that as well. So we've got mental health first aid instructors within the building. We go out and deliver the adult and youth 2-day mental health first aid England products. We also deliver workshops, and this is something we've been working quite a lot on during lockdown, doing remote workshops or online workshops for both businesses and grassroots football clubs around mental health and well-being and around sleep and stress. Because early on in the pandemic, we found that they were common causes of poor mental well-being within people. I suppose this shock, this new way of living. So we wanted to provide something for people who were in that situation, but also that shock and that new way of living quite often resulted in poor sleep. And we all know that if we have a poor night's kip, we're going to be stressed out. And if we're stressed out, we have a poor night's kip. And it kind of becomes this circle, and it can be quite dangerous to get into that. So that's another workshop that we go out and deliver as well. So in a huge nutshell, that's more or less the Be a Game Changer campaign, really. I don't know if you've got anything else to add with that, Tom.
No, just maybe perhaps go into a bit more detail with grassroots football clubs and businesses. I've got a massive responsibility with the grassroots football clubs perspective, and that's been really refreshing because I think from the health and wellbeing team's perspective with the campaign, we've been looking, during lockdown, how we can be more flexible, and Ollie talked about targeted approach and how we can be more flexible, but also how we can upskill individuals in the community to do basically what we do, and it's, having them open conversations about mental health, but also having some trained people in place to support either that business or grassroots football club. And one of the things that we're doing with grassroots football clubs at the moment is we are upskilling people to have the ability to be a mental health first aider. Which is a really crucial role. So someone for that football club to be the first line of contact for anyone, whether that's a coach, a player, anyone associated with that football club, to go and talk to about anything that they may, that may be going wrong with their health, mental health. And what's really good is that person will be able to have the skills to talk with them people, crucial skills as talking, with people who may have mental health problems, but also the ability to signpost them to them professional services where they can get the exact treatment or help that they may need, which I think is really, really crucial. So I think I don't know about you, Ollie, but I feel like during lockdown, we've took a lot of giant steps in great directions. You know, we've got more people on board from different, environments, which is really crucial. And again, from a grassroots perspective, it brings to life how, just like the Newcastle United badge, but their badge as well, how football has that power of making such a positive influence, whatever that influence is. And, I think from our perspective, that is, and without doubt, trying to get people more aware of their own mental health, which I'm more than sure COVID has done, made them aware of their own mental health, but also encouraging people, like we say, to talk more openly about those things that are going on and get the support they may need. So I feel like this campaign is taking massive steps every single day at the moment, which is really, really refreshing.
I think it's amazing. I mean, you both know my feelings on the campaign. I think it's one of the best things happening up here at the minute, especially around the club. I think the way that you use the power of the badge to attract people, and it really does bring, especially men, out their shells, and it does make them come in and take massive notice of the whole thing. Because I think without that there, because it's an incentive for them, they say the happiest times of their life with Newcastle United. And I think using the badge is the main aspect and letting people know, look, we're here for you. This is what's available. It's incredible. And I know I've said more than one time, without the campaign, I don't know where I would be right now. And I'll always be grateful to all of you at the campaign. I don't think I've ever said it to your face. I've said it on other podcasts. But without the team that are there, I can honestly say I don't know if I'd necessarily be here. I think I got really lucky in getting onto the 12th man programme, Ollie and Sam, and then to create great bonds with Tom, Ashley and Azim. It's just been really, really good for me personally. I'll always carry the mantra of the Game Changer campaign because it's something I'm really passionate about. And I thought, why don't I just tell you that? Because I don't think I've ever said it directly to you all. So thank you.
Hey, I tell you what, we've got deep already, haven't we, Josh?
I always get deep. There's no point
holding back the tears.
Thank you. I think, from our perspective, and this, we were talking about this just before, about nights like the big Newcastle United quiz, but we're aware of the podcasts you go on, and people like yourself and all the people who buy into this campaign, and fly the flag forward. We owe them a massive thank you, because without guys like yourself, or anyone who, believes in the campaign and takes it out there and, really promotes it, that's where the magic happens. You guys, it's massively unfortunate that, the experiences you've been through, but to have the ability and the experience to talk about those things, that's where the magic happens, and it promotes other people to do the exact same thing. So, looking at that, that Newcastle quiz, for example, all the different Newcastle United forums involved with that. I look back at that, I watched that, I had the pleasure of actually watching something which was ours, but it was done by the fans. And I thought that was really, really powerful and refreshing, because this campaign is the fans'. It's not ours, it's yours, or anybody who needs to use the campaign to get the help they need. And I thought, that quiz, again, it was just so powerful and beautiful that, especially with Newcastle United fan, but any football fan who may be struggling, or anybody, if they can use that campaign, like yourself, to get the help, fantastic, because that's what it's there for. We're here, hopefully, to save even one person's life.
I'd agree, and I'd add to that as well, Thomas, because I think you've described it perfectly. In that, really, we didn't do a massive amount. We'll take the credit. Don't get us wrong. I'll take exactly what you've just said and pat myself really hard on the back. But we didn't do a huge amount. We just got the ball rolling to an extent. We just started it off, and I think Thomas is right. There's people and there's individuals like you who've taken this and carried it, and as a result of that, you will have inadvertently saved other people. So for every one person that the campaign, has impacted, you will have impacted many, many more. And I think that's where the real worth is. And you're right, Thomas. I think when people get the passion of something, and when they take upon the responsibility of something like the Be a Game Changer campaign, they do such a huge amount for others because they don't want those other people to experience what they've experienced. They want to protect other people. They want to go, I don't want you to go through some of the things that I've had to live with in my life. So let's go out there and support you and help you. And I think it's not us. It's not us who's done this. This is the community's program. This is the fans program, the fans campaign, and you'll hopefully continue to carry it, and hopefully it'll have a legacy whereby, hopefully, if anything, we've changed the culture. We've changed these conversations. Would we have had things like the locker room 5 years ago? Probably not. And I think that's the important bit, because we're having these open conversations about things which are really quite sensitive and make people really quite insecure, which are mental health and mental illness. And we're normalising it. If you can normalise it, then you're halfway there. You really are. So, no, I think we will. Let's all give each other a pat on the back, because we've all done as well as each other.
I think it's just taken really well. I think, especially with all the other podcasters and fan channels taking to it as well, I can just see it growing and growing from now. As Thomas said, the quiz was brilliant. I mean, the way they brought together all the different ex-players, a couple of celebrities. Obviously, Stevie B was on there, the biggest celebrity of them all. So
that's our head of foundation for anybody who's watching. Clue who we're talking about. Steve Baharrell, our head of foundation. Yeah, he made an appearance.
He was, and he's done a couple of podcasts as well, pushing the campaign. I just think the fact that mental health and talking about mental health is becoming more and more one. I've pushed the campaign through work, and now we have weekly meetups through Zoom and similar stuff, and it's just making people more open and honest, and it's just phenomenal to see how people will just come out of their shells and talk about it.
Yeah.
Especially during this period, the COVID period has been awful for everyone, but I think where we've mainline been working through it, now we've got the ability to sit down and talk to each other and express our feelings and concerns. It's been huge for the company, and it's something that's really taken off. If you found that during this period, obviously, with not working and not as involved, it's affected your own mental health at all?
Yeah, of course it has. I mean, we've been doing really unusual things for the past year. We've not been socialising. We've not been able to see our loved ones. I've lost grandparents during the last year. It's been a really, really tough one for me personally, and I think not having my usual outputs, the usual things that I do in my life to boost my mental health. I used to cycle to work every day. Sometimes I'd go to the gym when I was at work as well. I'd have a group of people who I could talk to on a regular basis, and all of those were removed, and that has become really difficult throughout the last year. And I think it's fair to say we've all had peaks and troughs, and I've not been exempt from that. I've had some troughs, some big troughs. As you can tell, I'm sat in my little boy's bedroom. I've also been raising a 1-year-old over the last year, or he was born just a few weeks before the lockdown. So that pressure as well has been really tricky. So I would happily discuss how that's impacted me, and what I've done. To be honest, just try to find other methods of finding that release. So whether that was going out and exercising, I've taken up running, which I can't stand, but I do it because I need to. Because if I don't do it, I ruminate in my head far too much. I've read books. I've educated myself on things which have been something that I've been completely unaware of before, like things like anti-racism, for example. I've read books on anti-racism and the importance around trying to be an anti-racist ally. Understood a little bit more about equality, diversity, and inclusion, and that's what quite a lot of our work is doing at the moment in the foundation. So, educating yourself is something that can really help stimulate your brain, because we need to stimulate our brain just as much as we do our bodies. But yeah, personally, of course, I have. I've been impacted by it, and I cannot wait for this light at the end of the tunnel. We're so close.
You, Tom.
I think what Ollie's touched upon there, I don't know if he did it intentionally, but everybody without doubt would have been impacted by this to some capacity. But I like how Ollie ended on positives, because I think that's what's probably happened with, again, the majority of people through these really difficult times. how we all look for these positives, ways of learning, ways of being more proactive. And there's things there which I probably will never forget, like things like, do I really need to be going to the office 5 days a week? Probably not. I've proven that I can be more flexible. I can work from home a little bit more. But yes, of course, it's not being able to see people, that really, really impacted me because of the person I am. I really pick up on body contact and that engagement with people. Fortunately, as of this week, we've got walking football sessions back up and running, which has been so nice, especially on days like today where the sun's shining. But yeah, during lockdown, just like Ollie, I've had my own struggles, having a 3/4-year-old running around the house wanting snacks whilst I'm trying to work and do Zoom calls, and and it's not his fault, and you're worrying about, is he getting the education he needs? And and then it's been really, really difficult, and regardless of what angle you're coming from. But again, I just think it just puts into perspective of how low things can get, regardless of who you are. We can create positives, so if someone's listening today, for example, and they're rock bottom, or they're close to rock bottom, things can get better. We can put goals in place. How big or small them goals are, that obviously differs person to person, but like Ollie says as well, there's always, in my opinion, light at the end of the tunnel, and we can always get there.
I'd want to add to that, to be honest. Sorry to interrupt, Josh. Sorry that we're going off script. It's important because there's something in mental health and mental health recovery called the recovery model, and it's very different to the physical health recovery model. Because in physical health, when we get an injury, say if you were to break your arm, we know that if we put you in a cast for a certain period of time, your arm will be okay. Mental health isn't the same as that. We can't just say, right, if somebody's experienced depression, for example, if we put them in a cask, if we give them some form of treatment, and this treatment that we've got out of the textbooks, and we apply that to that individual in a certain period of time, that person will be okay. That's not the case. That's very rarely the case, and no two people are the same, which means that I think Josh has gone. Hopefully he'll come back.
Yeah, I went wrong. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
No two people are the same, which means that the treatment's going to be different for different individuals. And the light at the end of the tunnel might not be going back to where you were before. You might not be what you were like before you experienced that period of depression. And that's good. That's a good thing, because we learn. Because as we go through life and as we go through this tunnel, we experience things which stay with us, and we learn from them, and we probably become more resilient. We might even become closer as a family. I've had conversations with people who've had family members who've attempted to take their own life. And as a result, they have gone through a period of recovery, and they've probably are never going to fully 100% recover. They're probably never going to gain all of their self-confidence back. But as a family, they've become far closer, and they're far more closer knit. So you've got to kind of highlight some of the positive aspects of the recovery. And recovery is going to be a really long and difficult journey, and there's going to be some good days and there's going to be some bad days. But I think what Thomas was talking about is hope. You've got to have hope. And that at the end of the day, hope is, hold on, pain ends. This feeling that you're feeling right now will come to an end at some point in the future. But just keep in there. It's a journey and you'll get there. So yeah, that was my bit. Sorry to interrupt a little bit, John.
So I love the Ollie mantras, man. I've missed them. some of my favourite things when you just go off script. It's brilliant.
I do go on tangents, yeah. I'm a nightmare.
I always love that. The Ollie stories are amazing. Like the Iron Man one. I love the Iron Man one.
Oh yeah.
I use that one all the time. I've stolen it, but I've claimed it as my own now. So
go on then. How do you interpret that one? Because I'm interested in how people interpret some
pretty much some of your rubbish. I interpret it as everyone's fighting their battle. So you've got the man who's obviously training for this ultimate event, the Iron Man, and then you've got his mum who's training herself just to go for a walk around the block. And it's sort of like the interpretation that everyone's fighting their own battle, and no matter how small you think it is to them, it's a marathon. So I went through some stuff over Christmas, which led me on a really dark path again. And the way I got myself out of it was I threw myself into in fact, it was for the bit of Game Change came out. I threw myself into the 150-mile walk. And at the time, I thought to myself, what are you doing? But then I broke it up into segments, and every day I fought myself to get out and do 5-6 miles. And to some people that was nothing, but to me that was everything at the time, because it put my mind straight. And for me, walking is one of my best therapies because it lets me think, it takes me away from everything. I don't take my phone, I don't take headphones, I'm just walking. And I find that you use is everyone's competing in their own battles, and no matter how small it is to someone, that could be massive to that person. So I've learned myself never to belittle anything, or if someone says, "Oh, I walked 10 minutes," that's amazing for them. That's a really top thing they've done. They don't know, you don't know yourself how they're suffering or where their mind's at. And for them to do that, a huge achievement which could change their day.
Yeah.
So that's the way I always see it. Is you've got someone who's training for different events in mind, and no matter what that event is and how they complete it, it's a massive achievement. Which is probably miles off what it actually means, but that's how I've always foreseen it.
I agree. I think it's that hard is subjective. So hard is individual to you. What you find hard might not be what I find hard. You might be able to run a marathon, but if I can do a block around the street, around the block, then I'm buzzing. Like I'm over the moon. That was my hard. But I think if we talk about it in terms of mental health, we as people who want to support other people, and you could call yourself a mental health first aider, you could just call yourself a decent human, a human who wants to support other humans. You need to be aware that what that person's experiencing might be really, really quite difficult and hard for them, although you wouldn't find that hard at all. So what I might personally get through life and breeze through, it might be really quite easy for me to fix a problem, but it might be really quite difficult for this person to fix a problem. And I need to be aware of that when I'm supporting that person. Because if I don't, I'll belittle them and I'll say, oh, well, it's not that hard. It's not that big of a deal. Just get over it. And that's the worst sort of advice you could ever give.
Yeah.
If you've ever felt that low and somebody's told you to get over it, it's not like, oh, brilliant, thank you. I never thought about getting over it. I'm glad that you told me to do that. Okay, so we've got to look at it from that point of view. But I also think that quite a lot of the time, in my experience, speaking to people who go through difficulties in life, they do it to themselves. They belittle themselves and they say, well, I shouldn't feel like this. And then they make themselves feel terrible. So to give you an example, and they try and they call it, or you can call it drawing a silver line around stuff. And if people haven't watched the video, YouTube, Brené Brown, Empathy versus Sympathy, and it's an amazing 2-minute 20-second video on how to be a good listener. And she talks about this a little bit. And she talks about drawing a silver lining around stuff. Now, us as listeners quite often draw a silver lining around things, but the individual who's struggling from something can do the same. And a real life experience, something that I had the other day, a close friend of mine had, I hope he doesn't mind, I won't share names or anything like that, but he's been going through IVF. And at the second attempt, the IVF had failed. And I was speaking to him about it. And he said, well, it's all right, because we've still got adoption. We've still got all these other paths that we can take down. And I had to stop him and say, wait, you're trying to draw a silver lining around something that's really quite horrible that's happened to you. You're allowed to be sad when sad things happen. Allow yourself time to be sad, because it's good for us. It's good to experience that reflection and to sit with those, because again, it's about this journey. We will learn from those experiences, but allowing people the opportunity to be sad can be really, really powerful for somebody who's in need of support.
I think that's what I learned from my own journey was I always put a block on myself feeling emotion. I always kind of man up, because obviously I was brought up in a gypsy household, and I was brought up around strong men, and I felt like when my head wasn't necessarily working the way it should be, or how tight it should be, I just put a block up and I didn't let it in, and I just didn't let anything out either. So that was the problem. So it's just a build up on both sides, the things coming in and me blocking things going out, that led to obviously everything happening all at once.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like I'm good now. I've learned my coping mechanisms, and talking is the best medicine. And I couldn't recommend it highly enough. If you are ever struggling, is just find that power within to talk. Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be a massive conversation. It could just be, I'm feeling down, because that opens up many, many paths to sort of lead into conversations.
Yeah.
And
there was a great tool. Sorry, go on.
I think it's really powerful what you're both talking about. And I think it's, one of the things I've learned massively about mental health is the reality is it's life. Everything that in regards of mental health is your life. And I think when we're talking about these topics, for someone who might be brand new to what we're talking about here, what I get from that is we as individuals love to compare our lives to other people's lives, and we should really refrain from that, because not everybody's lives are going to be different. So that's lifestyles, how we affect from different situations, like Ollie was talking about. And the biggest thing with mental health is learning about your own life. And that's how I really started to understand what mental health actually is. It's not just in here, it's everything that goes on in your own personal life that can impact what goes on in here. And that's how I best understand it. Because once you do that, I think you're onto a winner. Once you understand all of the things that go on in your life, whether it's, your children, a relationship, work, what activities what you like to do, the things you don't like to do, or the things that impact you in whatever way. As soon as you can start getting into that routine of pinpointing all these things, all these little tools and attributes that affect our lives, I honestly feel like you're onto a winner to improve your own health, not just your mental health, but also your physical health too, because there's a massive correlation between the two. Once you have that ability, I honestly think you're on for a winner. So for someone who might be listening right now and saying, well, what is mental health? It's you in every single aspect of your life. And if you can understand yourself and refrain from, understanding other people, you'll probably have a better outlook. And definitely, like you guys say, is when we are thinking about other people, put ourselves in their shoes. We might not understand what's going on in their lives and how that impacts them. So equally, that's really important. So being open-minded about yourself, but also about the world that surrounds you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like go on, Ollie.
I was going to dive in with one little thing, because I think you mentioned about how people should have conversations and talk to people and find individuals, and I fully support that. I'm also aware that it can be really quite difficult for people to do that, especially in 2021 when this is how we have conversations. Mm-hmm. And I think a tool that I came across the other day, which sounded so powerful, was a gent who said that at the end of his work day, because he's been working at his kitchen table, he packs his laptop away, packs everything away, he lights a candle, and he writes a letter. And he writes a letter to somebody who he might want to speak to. So it might be that, I don't know, something happened between my parents and I when I was a kid, so I'll write a letter to my parents. Or it could just be write a letter to yourself. And I think that whole journey of writing things that are inside of your head on a bit of paper can be so beneficial and cathartic is the word. It's release, isn't it? It's getting this release through a different measure. So that might be something that people can exercise, is writing a letter.
It's something similar to what I've started doing. I at the end of the night, I've got a notepad by the pen, and I draw a bin, and I start writing stuff in that is in my mind. If it's important, it doesn't go in the bin. But if it's just rubbish, I put it inside the bin. And once the bin is full, I draw the lid on, and I close a book and I put it away, and then I'll open it the next day and look at the important things. And it's just something I've started doing, and it just really helps balance my mind. And ridiculously, I think it was actually Stacey Solomon that I saw doing. I was earwigging on my partner watching something on the phone, and she said she did it. I thought, you know what, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And it just really helps me of an evening just to switch off, because I got into the habit of laying there and either going straight on my phone and doing what Thomas said. I'm looking at people's lives and thinking, God, they're lucky. When in reality, the process is not necessarily as brilliant as it's being made out. So I thought, I've got to start putting that away, and I just started writing, and it just lets everything out of my mind. I literally close the book, it's got a little strap around it, and I lay down, and that's it. And it really switches me off. And that's one of the main things I've been using at the minute. But obviously there's all different techniques that people can use.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. That's a great one.
It really helps, and I don't even know why. It's just something silly. I can't even draw, so the bin's it's just like a square, but I just fill it up with words or thoughts that are in my mind, and it just switches me off. It's brilliant. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end it there, because I think we've spoken really well about the campaign and pushed it, and I just don't like the videos to be too long, because I feel like people just want to see the impact, and the impact of the campaign has been amazing, especially in the North region. And you should all of you, the whole team should be really proud of what you've achieved so far.
As should you, Josh. That's what we said at the beginning. This isn't Thomas and I and Azim and Ashley. It's the Northeast. We as the Northeast should be proud of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's class. But did you just want to say where we can find you quickly, so people who have obviously never come across you before can find you?
They can find the foundation at, I presume it's at the bottom of the page, NU Foundation. That's our Twitter handle. We've got a web page which is NU_foundation. You can find us on Facebook, Newcastle United Foundation. You can find our Be a Game Changer Facebook page by searching Be a Game Changer Newcastle United Foundation in Facebook. You can find Thomas and I through email. My name's oliver.bell at Newcastle United, NUFC, Newcastle United Football Club.co.uk. And I'm sure Thomas don't want to give his out. But, yeah, Thomas is there as well. Looks like he's frozen on my screen. Thomas is Thomas.great.
Yeah.
It just doesn't move. It just sits there.
I'm just admiring the conversation, guys.
I thought that as well, and then I saw his head slightly move. Oh no, he's not frozen. But, thank you very much for coming on, lads. It's been brilliant, and hopefully we'll get you on again in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, let us know. Nice to see you.
And you, mate. I'll see you soon.